Well, hello everyone. It's such a great pleasure to be here. I am super happy and super glad to be sharing my story at the first World Medical Studies Conference sponsored from AMO. So I really hope you do enjoy my presentation. This presentation will be called From Student to MD, Sharing My Academic Journey. My name is Pavel Pichardo. I'm an international medical graduate from Mexico. I studied medicine here in Tijuana at a university called Autonomous University of Baja, California. I'm an active member for the Society for Neuroscience. I have a master's degree in medical neuroscience. I did some research at one of the big hospitals here in Mexico called the National Institute of Neurology and Neurosurgery, and also the National Institute of Oncology here. I'm going to become a neurosurgery research fellow this year. I can still disclose where I'm going to be going, but this is going to be happening. And I aspire to become a neurosurgeon in the United States. I'm really happy to be sharing my story, and I really hope you enjoy it. So this is my social media. You can find like a lot of resources that might be useful to you. My main goal is to help like a lot of IMG sorts, helping them become physicians in the United States. So I will be sharing my story over here at all these accounts. I share whenever I prepare for an exam, how I did, for example, in my step 1, and how am I preparing for my step 2 CK, and all of that stuff regarding to the process towards becoming a physician in the United States. So first off, I want to be starting by sharing a little bit of my past, because I was never like a top student at any point in my life. I remember that, for example, when I was in elementary school, I only achieved like the effort rule, which was like awarded to all of those students that were like sort of progressing, but still not like still like a top student. So this was like repeated along all of my academic career. So I remember that when I started in high school, I even chose like a subspecialty over there in high school, where I wanted to pursue something regarding administration. I was trying to learn a little bit about business, if that was going to be for me and for the rest of my life. Fortunately enough, my mother is a physician, and I learned. I remember that I asked her like a lot of like deep questions regarding the medical career, how it is to become a physician, and what it took for me to be like a great doctor as I was expecting for myself. So I had like a lot of struggles before starting medical school, because I remember that I had never read a complete book prior to university. And I had like a lot of friends that always telling me that it was super paramount to be like a super avid reader and to read like a ton of books before you got into you got into medical school. And I was like super scared, because at that point in my life, I had never completed a single book. So I was sort of scared, because I was going into administration. I had never read anything, but I decided that I wanted to pursue a career in medical school. I almost had little to no knowledge about biological sciences, so I did not know like anything about, for example, a cell. I believe that my only knowledge, and I believe it's almost like common knowledge, is that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and besides that, I didn't know anything. So yeah, and I also was, as I mentioned, never like super outstanding at any point in my academic career. So it was like a little tough for me to believe that I was able to pursue a career in medical school. So I remember that when I started medical school, it was like such a big trouble, because when I was starting to learn all of these difficult topics, for example, what is, for example, electronegativity, energy of ionization, what is a bond, and all of these like difficult topics. I remember that I was I started to read this amazing book by Gerald Karp called Cellular and Molecular Biology, which is the alternate book for Albert's. So I remember that I really struggled a lot. For example, for a single paragraph, I remember that it took me like without any lies, it took me like an hour just to try to. I was translating every single word, because I didn't understand anything. I didn't understand like a specific terminology that was used in the books. So it really took me like a lot. So after that, I remember that my as I was like struggling with medical school, and I was starting to build like little by little, a little bit more of confidence in myself. I was slowly getting a grasp of what medical sciences were. I remember that I wanted to learn a little bit more about research. So I remember that my first approach was to, I live over here in Tijuana. Tijuana is like a neighbor city from San Diego. And in San Diego, there's this big university where I believe that a lot of you may already know, which is called UCSD, or the University of California, San Diego. When I was a first year medical student, I had nothing in my CV. I remember that I was like an average student. I wasn't at the top. I wasn't, but I also wasn't like in the lowest tier point. But I wasn't, as I mentioned, like really outstanding. I remember that I had nothing in my CV. I had no experience of any sort, nor was I in the top 10 students of my generation. So I remember that I approached a researcher at that point in time. I will not mention his name just for personal purposes, but I remember that while I was asking him if he would probably allow me to, for example, help him across his research job or any or participate in research in general, but it unfortunately didn't end up as I would have expected, because I remember that he told me like a couple of things that which he was right to be honest. He told me that, for example, I didn't had like at that point in time any experience regarding research. I didn't know a lot about sales. I didn't know. I wasn't even like a top student. I wasn't, for example. I mean, I admit that I had like a lot of red flags that were not like super good for any researcher who didn't know me. I was like super driven and highly motivated, but however, that was still not reflected at that point in my academic career. So maybe if my medical journey, maybe my medical journey would have ended up right there if I wasn't like so stubborn and super dedicated, and I wasn't so driven towards achieving what I want to become in life. But fortunately, most of the students in medical field are like just like that, because I believe that most of us are like super driven, super dedicated. We have like a big decision of what we want to achieve in our life. So that didn't stop me at that point in my life. But I remember that after many days of being consistent, I started to understand even difficult topics. I remember that whenever I finished my classes of the day, I went directly into the library and stayed there until the library closed, which is like, it was like around 9 or 10 p.m. and my day was like that. For example, I woke up like at 5 or 6 a.m. I went to classes. I finished my medical classes like around 12 p.m. or maybe 2 p.m. I went directly into the library, and I studied the whole day through until like 9 p.m. or 10. And I started to notice that little by little, I was starting to understand the fundamentals of medicine. I remember I started to even notice that, for example, memorization was not as relevant as I thought, because as long as you understand the topics, it's like relatively easy to make a sense of them, and you don't have to use your memory so much. So I remember that a lot of people told me at one point in my life that medicine might not be free for me, because I have like a lot of issues. For example, I have ADHD. I like struggle a lot. I usually am not like the best standardized test taker. I usually have to prepare like 20 times more than the average student, because I get so distracted. For example, for the clinical vignettes that are so long, my attention span usually, well, I really have a hard time. So but I'm coming here to share with you that time and diligence will eventually reward you. So even when I started to study all these topics, I started to get like better grades. I started to understand the fundamentals of medicine, and little by little, I noticed that, for example, people, a lot of different medical students were approaching me just to they ask me for lectures. For example, hey, Pavel, can you give me a lecture about medical physiology or neurosciences or immunology? Because I really struggle a lot because I don't understand all of these. And I know that you usually give lectures with a lot of like big colors, and you correlate in a way that it's like super engaging for me. So before I knew it, I was giving medical lectures, and it was amazing because this really started to boost my confidence. And I remember that all these, I have been giving lectures since I was like in third semester, which is like the second year of medical school, up until now, which is like I've been in this academic medical path for around 10 years. So I've been giving classes for over 7 years, a little bit more. And I'm super happy because thanks to that, I've been sharing all of my lectures in a free format that you can find in YouTube. On YouTube, you can find my lectures about physiology and immunology and neurosciences and a lot of different topics, which really like helped me understand that I was also born with a gift. It might not be like reflected in standardized tests, or maybe not in like a lot of different stuff, but I noticed that I was like special in my own kind of way. And like a lot of us, my life was not like a crystal stair. I remember that while I was struggling with medical school, I believe that a lot of, I mean, all of us have problems, and even though that we may not be sharing them with as many people as a lot would think, life can be really like super difficult for everyone. I remember that, for example, in 2017, I was having like 2016, I was having maybe like the worst year of my life, because I remember that my mother got hospitalized because she was diagnosed with a psychiatric disease. And unfortunately is what it really took a toll on my family, and it was like super sad, because it's super difficult to try to help a patient, and even a little bit more when it's your mother. So I was trying to learn how to be a good son, and try to learn how to help my mother in the best way I could, with all the possibilities I had at that point in my life. But you know, the best thing is that a lot of problems usually build like a lot of character, help you become the person you aspire to be. And it really made me a better, I believe that it made me a better man. So thanks God, my mother is already at home, and she's like super happy right now. But I remember that it was like a super critical time for me. And I remember that I was struggling with medical school, and I didn't know what I wanted to do like for the future of my life. So just at that same point in my time, I remember that I searched for AMO, and I really want to share my story, because it really was like super special and super life-changing for me. Because back in 2017, in 2017, I met Dr. B. Dr. B is he was like such an amazing physician, because I remember that at that point in my academic career, I knew that I wanted to pursue something in neurosciences. However, I didn't know if I wanted to do whether or neurosurgery or maybe neurology, because it wasn't like super clear, because the differences in years, in treatments, and how they work and their lifestyle, it's like super astronomically different. So I knew that I had to like spend a little bit more of time with physicians in their respective specialties. So I met Dr. B, and he was by far, he exceeded any expectation that I had of my own life. Even for example, he was a physician that I aspired to be. He was so great with his patients. He was so knowledgeable. He was so funny, and he was like full of life. And I mean, he is what I was, what the type of physician I aspire to become. So starting in 2017, I really got super passionate about for example, neurosurgery. And he was telling me all of these amazing topics, and all of these um out of the world like treatments. For example, like treating epilepsy, or getting rid of a brain tumor, or getting someone to stop trembling, to at least eat, which we take for granted. It really is super life changing. So I remember that when I told them, it was just like a 1 month observership, but we got along so well that for example, for my case, it transformed into a medical assistant volunteer job, because I remember that for over 2 years I was, like, for example, crossing the border from Mexico to San Diego, and I was helping him with, for example, do physical examination on patients, doing, for example, doing rounds, giving presentations, giving a lot of different stuff that I did not think I was capable of enough of doing at that point in my life. So I remember that after 2 years of being a medical assistant, and bonded so well, and I mean, he is maybe my strongest letter of recommendation at this point in my time. So he gave me this handbook of neurosurgery, which is like the Bible of neurosurgery. You can even find this picture over here. And I remember that the last day I saw him, it was just to say goodbye, because I had to move to Mexico City to start a research job over there. So for example, he wrote on his book, Pavel, best of luck and prayers for your medical journey, your friend Blasky. And it was truly amazing. I remember I even printed his picture. So he really is a friend of mine, and I consider him like a life mentor for me, because we never lost communication. For example, he congratulates whenever it's my birthday. We text each other whenever it's, for example, like Christmas or something like that. So it really is amazing. We really like built a really great and amazing bond. And it wouldn't have been possible without this amazing platform. So yeah, I remember that when I decided that I wanted to pursue a career in neurosurgery, I noticed that if I wanted to get into the specialty of my dreams, it was going to take me not only like a lot of study, but also a lot of scientific research. So I started. I remember that for my here in Mexico, we had to do like 5 years of medical studies. After that, we had to do 1 year of internship. And after that, we have to do 1 year of medical social service, like, for example, and I did the last one in research. So I remember that I was starting to do like a little bit of research in my intern year. I started to understand how to do statistics, how relevant statistics were for me to be able to do to publish research papers. And it really helped me a lot, because I posted my poster, my presentation in like a big congress, which fortunately enough, even though it was like a super simple study design, where I basically compared the BMI of patients that had several type of cancers associated with obesity or overweight. I only demonstrated an association that was not documented in my city. So it was like super amazing. And I knew that with a little bit of luck, I even applied for like the biggest hospital that dedicates to treating neurological diseases in Latin America, called the National Institute of Neurology and Neurosurgery, where I basically spent over a year being a research assistant. I started to do, for example, real-time PCR. I did also some gene sequencing. I also quantified some DNA. I extracted DNA, for example, from blood samples. I really did like a lot of stuff that I did not believe I was going to be able to do it at that point in my life. So I remember that I kept sticking to my study habits that I have built, for example, for over a couple of years already. And thanks to that, I got accepted as a member for the Society for Neuroscience. I participated in my first research paper. And also the Society for Neurosciences sponsors a contest called the National Olympiad of Neurosciences, where I basically got into the top three contenders in that contest, and I was like super happy. Um, I started to do like amazing things in research. For example, I participated in a lot of congresses thanks to this year of research I did. For example, I went to Chicago to Neuroscience 2019. I remember that, for example, I got several honorific mentions with contests by the American Association of Neurological Surgeons. I still continued my participation in research. I even, for example, collaborated with the National Institute of Oncology here in Mexico. And I started to notice that little by little, my CV was like building up, it even turned into amazing things because I even I even got to participate in my first like book chapter because um one of my biggest like goals in life was to be able to participate in a book because um to be able to know that at one point in my lifetime I was not even able to read like a single paragraph without trying to review like every single terminology word that was like relatively new to me. It was like super mind blowing, and it really was like super amazing for me. So um this was like a big milestone for my academic career, and I kept growing. I remember that I even participated in the first clinical key global challenge in 2019. I was like awarded like a top contender and a top student in the country, I believe. And also, well, at that point in that contest, it was like a world contest where with participants with students of Harvard, Yale, students from New England. For it was from all across the world, and it was like such a blessing to receive like this award. And also, I remember that El Sevier, which is like this big editorial of books that we already like, I believe that everyone has read. For example, Guyton's Medical Physiology, Linda Costanzo Medical Physiology, for example, Robbins Pathology, Baines of Biochemistry. All these amazing books come from the same editorial line, which is El Sevier. And to be able to receive a letter where they were writing that I shine bright amongst thousands of students. It was like truly mind blowing for me because it was like doing like the complete turn of tables because I understood that I was also capable of being like a great physician. So I remember that I even shared my story on Facebook, and it got like super viral because I remember that it got shared like tons of times. And after that point in my time, I remember that I started to become like a medical social media influencer, and I at that point I remember that I was building like my YouTube medical account where I basically teach my Hispanic peers a lot of medical sciences. So it's like still like a little channel, but it's growing little by little, and I'm super proud of it. I also have like my Instagram account, which where I help like a lot of students regarding the USMLE Step 1 preparation, like some tips and tricks that I use myself. And also it's been amazing. For example, I even built built like a small school with my wife over here. It's called Didasco, which in Latin is called I teach. That's the meaning of those letters, and it's been really amazing through all of these years. I even built a podcast thanks to the same YouTube platform, thanks to social media, and I even got like awarded like, as a top podcast in the top 50 science podcasts here in Mexico, and they hear my podcast in over 30 countries all over the world, and it's truly mind blowing for me because I would have never in 1,000 years believed that I was going to be able to do or achieve something like that, and be able to share my story. So unfortunately, when I started medical school, since my school was like a little small, I was not able to complete my step 1 examination up until I graduated medical school. I remember that, for example, my school finally got the chance to get his students to participate in this big exam up until May of 2021. And just if anyone remembers it, um, in January of 2022, they were gonna change the the scoring system of the step one examination from pass and fail. I mean, from a 3-digit score to a pass and fail system. So I had like only like 6 months to prepare, and I didn't know if I was gonna be able to do like a good exam, and it was like super great to notice that I was capable, that even though that I was not the best test taker, that even though that I was not like super knowledgeable, even though that I was not like the most brilliant or had the most privileged memory of all of my peers, that as long as I would be willing to work like super hard and be like super like engaging with the things that I love in my life, I was going to be able to achieve great things. And fortunately enough, after 6 months of preparation and more than 1,000 hours of study, more than 8,000 questions that I had to solve for my preparation, I got a 248 in my exam, which I didn't know how good it was until I started to compare with all of these like out of the world, like schools that we idealize and we fantasize like a lot about. And so I went to aspire to become a neurosurgeon. So it was like super important for me to at least get like over the average score. So fortunately for me, enough for me, I scored like a relatively high, and I am super grateful for that. And I know that I am little by little building a great CV towards becoming the physician I aspire to become. And I just want everyone of you know that you don't have to come from the best university in the world. You just have to be like really resilient and really consistent, and results eventually will come if you're dedicated enough to work towards your dream despite your disadvantages. So even though I still have a long way to go, I finished my I am a general practitioner, which is like sort of when like you practice like general medicine, just like the name implies. Even though I already finished my master's degree in medical neuroscience, I still aspire to become a neurosurgeon in the United States. So I know how relevant research is. So even though I didn't know at what how I was going to be able to become a great neurosurgeon applicant, I discovered that by doing a postdoctoral research fellow in neurosurgery, I was going to be able to do a 2-year research job where I will be starting like in the following months. And it's like super important because you have to publish a lot, for example, as an international medical graduate who aspires to get into any competitive specialty, just like, for example, Malki Assad's going to be talking to you a little bit more in his presentation. So I really am super happy and super blessed because it took me, I had to apply for in over 307 positions. From all of those, only I got interviewed into 20 hospitals in the US. And from those 20 hospitals, I got like 5 job offers. And I had to look for a lot of stuff. For example, I had to look for a mentor, a laboratory that was working more with clinical research, not so much in basic, that also had like a residency program in there. And so I finally found the program of my dreams, and I really aspire to apply here in the future. And I'm like super happy and super blessed to have this opportunity. So I may still not be where I want to be, but I know I'm a little bit closer than yesterday. And I wanted to tell you that I'm just like you. You don't have to be the smartest student to accomplish everything you've ever wanted. You just have to be like really passionate and really resilient, and eventually results will come. So I also want to share with you guys that it's like totally worth it, because at the end of the day, to be able to be in a hospital and to be able to receive like the most transparent thank you that you will maybe ever receive when you help someone in need, it really is like a life-changing moment. And I know that not any career that exists compares to what we do. So I really do believe it's super worth it. So enjoy the present. You don't need to a medical career to start being happy, because I remember that at one point in my life, I started to think like this. When I become a neurosurgeon, I'm gonna be starting to be happy. My mother will be proud. She will be having anything. My brother will also be proud of who I am. My father will eventually rest. My wife will be, and when I started to notice that a medical specialty will come to complement your happiness, not become happiness itself, it really changed me. So um I really just wanted to let you know that it's like a super long journey. So you really have to take responsibility for your own happiness, and responsibility for what you want your life to be. And I want to all of you to let you know that you can start being happy today. So do not procrastinate on your happiness, and you will get there. Enjoy yourself, love a lot, enjoy this amazing journey, which is like super mind-blowing. I really have loved every single step of this way, because it really, I am loving what I am becoming along this path, and I can't wait to know what my final version will be when I finally become a neurosurgeon. But it's truly thrilling. So you may not, so enjoy your journey. You may never know who's following your steps. So just to close this, I am writing like a small book for neurosciences, and also like mix like stories. um I still do not have the title of this book, but for example, this little brain is like the word out for the, I mean, the how do you say it? It's the art job for the first chapter. This little brain over here, it's called DJ, in honor for Dr. B. So the first chapter starts like this: the best thing about each and every one of us is not what we are, but what we can become. So this is like a really life mentor for me, and it really allows me to believe that even though I am not who I aspire to become, I am capable and I am blessed enough to become him. So I really hope that you really do enjoy this little presentation. I prepared it with a lot of job and a lot of excitement to be sharing my story with you guys. And so let me know if you have any questions. So you can find my social media over here. I'm relatively more active in pavel.pichardo.md. So you can find me over there with this username. So thanks a lot. I really hope you enjoyed it, and see you later.